Hi, Lana. Welcome to Lana's Coach. So today I want to introduce you to one of the best known online platform that you can use to develop websites or enhance your website development skills. So it doesn't matter whether you are starting fresh, you don't have any skills, yeah. Whether you are a pro in web development, there's something that you can always gain from this particular platform. As you know, web development or web design skills is very essential in today's time and age. Yeah. So if you want to have an environment that you can freely learn at your own pace, how you can develop responsive websites, I think Gymnasium is the place to be. So you really don't need much. You just need to create your account. I've already created mine. Yeah. So you'll just log in with your credentials. Yeah. So once you have logged in, you'll be presented with very many options for you to choose. Like you can say you have the first option that enables you to go through the responsive web design fundamentals, right? Yeah. So there are very many JavaScript foundations. So if you want to really be a guru in web development, this is one of the best platforms that you can always get online, right? Now, everything here is free. It's you to log in, yeah, and start enrolling for this particular available courses, right? So there are many. As you can see, I'm scrolling down. Yeah, so once you have done with one category of course, you can always embark and start on doing the other one. The best thing is that they have well-known developers, and actually those people have been in the industry. Yeah, the instructors are actually industry based, so you are likely to get a lot from this particular courses. So maybe one of the courses that maybe you can start with is the responsive web design fundamentals. Yeah, so just click on the learn more, right? And of course, let's listen in to one of the instructors, Jason, so that he can take us through what he presents on this particular course. And please don't fail to subscribe. Thank you.
Responsive Web Design Fundamentals, Lesson 1. Introduction, Setting the Stage. A little bit about me. My name's Jason Palmentel, and I'll be your guide throughout this process. I've been working on the web for a little over 20 years in a range of different capacities, from creative director to technology manager for sailmakers, NFL team, Ivy League universities, and a bunch of other corporations. These days, I manage client strategy, design, and development over at a company called Isovera, where we build websites for universities and tech corporations, mostly in the Drupal platform. In this lesson, we're going to look at what the course is all about, learn a little bit about what responsive design is, look at some tools that we'll be using throughout the course, talk about some technical, conceptual, and design considerations, and we're going to get into the idea of design translation. How do we take that static mock-up from a design and turn it into a fluid, responsive website that works across all different devices and contexts? Chapter 1. What this course is all about. In this chapter, we're going to take a little bit of a look at you and see if you're the right person for this course. We're going to talk a little bit about what you need to know and understanding design hierarchy, and we're going to get to know a little bit of the basics of and how they relate to responsive web design, things like HTML, markup and meaning, CSS, or the layout and style for your site, and JavaScript, so we can get into behavior and finesse. So, is this class for you? Well, ask yourself if you work on web-based projects. Are you a digital designer of some kind, or do you want to be? Or are you a web developer? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then you are in the right place. The only thing that might be a hindrance is if you have not gotten a basic understanding of HTML and CSS and JavaScript, in which case you really should go back and take Aaron Gustafson's course on modern web design, which will be a fantastic introduction to all of the basics of HTML and CSS, getting into JavaScript, and getting comfortable with the basics of web design and development. If you have any doubt, go check it out. It's a great class, and he's a wonderful teacher. So what you'll learn in this class, we're going to get into a little bit of thinking in abstract relative hierarchies. We're going to talk about the basics of making your site scale and transform and what that means. We're going to look at some new layout and performance techniques like using Flexbox and loading web fonts for best performance. We're going to look at CSS shapes and even take a peek at CSS grid. And finally, we're going to talk about thinking in parallel. We really want you to make sure that while you're working on this, you're also thinking about your own portfolio site. You'll be making one for a fictitious person, but obviously we'd really love it if you end up with one for yourself at the end of this course. Some things you won't learn. We're not going to get into using Sass, Less, or any other CSS preprocessors. We're really focusing on the fundamentals of learning to write things yourself. We're also going to try and steer clear of JavaScript frameworks. We do use a little bit of jQuery, but mostly we're going to be writing plain vanilla JavaScript. We're also not going to use anything like Bootstrap or Foundation. We really want to focus on you learning things from the ground up, and we want to think about how all of these things work together before we start getting to know some of the shortcuts. Because after all, we had to roll the pixels uphill both directions when I grew up with our hands and we liked it. What we'll be building. We're going to make a portfolio site, and that's going to have things like a homepage, a main portfolio page, a page about you, and a few other little bits and pieces here and there. And we've got some examples for you to look at, from wireframes to design comps, all the way on through lots of sample code. The lessons are going to be broken up. You're in lesson 1 right now, so next we'll have lesson 2, looking at stretching and scaling and the flow of your layout. We'll look at going from a basic wireframe and adding in all of these different image and text elements and web fonts. In lesson 3, we're going to look at columns in Flexbox and responsive typography, and look at the future of layout on the web with some different layout ideas and techniques. We'll be able to make sure that our type scales and our layouts reflow to work perfectly on every device you can try it on. In lesson 4, we're going to take a look at navigation patterns and context awareness. You want to make sure that you have the right kind of interface for each way people interact with your website. Looking at it on a desktop and what's natural and easy to use there is not always the same as what's easiest on a phone. In lesson 5, we're going to take a look at responsive images, element queries, and the future of designing responsively and what that means and how it's different from that previous future we were talking about, which is really just focused on layout. Even something like responsive images, making sure you're serving up the right sized asset for the device that you're looking on, goes a long way to making sure that the experience actually shows up, as you can see here with that much smaller image being served on the phone. And in lesson 6, we're going to talk about the rest of the things with performance that really make a difference, both actual and perceived, and what that means. We'll talk a little bit more about mobile first. We'll talk about asset loading and how you can control the timing of it, and then testing. How do we make sure that it works across the widest variety of devices and also ensure that it's living up to our expectations for speed? When we're done, we'll actually be able to prove that our optimized site sends 50% less data down the line to the end user. It's going to load about 25% faster, and it has 15% fewer requests. So we hope you know where